Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, any changes to the agenda?
Just a board, just for a couple items. You do have the Becker County Improvement Project Certificate of Performance that was handed out to you along with the Finance Committee minutes.
I do also have a couple of appointments.
We can just do those under appointments.
Okay.
Okay, so under highway, you want to add certificate of performance?
Yeah, I believe it's, that was reviewed at the Finance Committee, as you're aware, Commissioner. And he just made this added to the agendas for consideration. I believe that we already have it on there. I don't think you have the document.
So there's no change to the agenda. Approved. Motion by John,
Oh, second.
second by Dave. Minutes, anyone have any corrections, additions, deletions? Under page 5 of 6. Number 1 under land use. Motion second to approve resolution review of proposed stand land acquisition. I think it should be easement. Number 2 probably should include the name of the architectural firm that received the low quote. It's in situ. S-I-T-U, I-N-S-I-T-U. Number 4 probably should have a little bit more information on the motion to approve a grant for $5,000. Doesn't give you very much information. I don't know what you'd like. We should add something though to. Clarify what that grant was for. That was for childcare through kind of through EDA, but
Yeah.
It wasn't that for them to
To the
establish the nonprofit?
Yep.
So maybe include that
And then they
5,000
had-
grant match.
and then the match, it was the match, so we had to approve the $5,000 to get the match right away, because it was running out of time.
Is there any other corrections, additions? There's some things in there I don't think are needed. That's just getting, but if they're in there, it's fine. You know, in the past, if there is any questions, you can contact, the commissioners, and if there's a question on something that you want clarified rather than just wait to. Anything else? Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion.
Motion by Erica. I'll second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Open forum. Woo-hoo. Thank you, Mary. Joey, did you wish to speak, Joe? If you do, come to the table, state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name's Joe Stenger. I live at 1848 360 Avenue. I've lived there, I've been in the area for 78 years. During those years, I got over 50 years in my own business, which I worked for a lot of townships. Some years, probably 30, 40 townships I worked for. So I go to a lot of township meetings. And I've never seen nothing like this in my whole life. You know, I hear somebody saying, yes, this goes on, but I never seen it go on. It causes conflict. And I've been to township meetings where there was conflict, and they usually are broke. I've seen where the county had conflict, and they were operating on warrants because of the board not working together. So I want to thank the people, the taxpayers that came to last meeting and expressed themselves. And I want to thank the taxpayers that come here and express themselves, whether you're for what or against it, you know, you got the right to speak. But you don't got the right to lie. And I checked out some things and I found some lies.
Joey, I'd like you to address the board if you wish. Don't address the crowd, please.
I want to thank the veterans and our forefathers for earning this right that we have to speak. So, Barry, you did wrong. For pulling the chair out from under a friend. That was the wrong thing. That caused conflict in the county. So since that happened, I've been checking in on you. And I've been finding a lot of history of you not doing the proper things. So I took it on myself. I'm hired an investigator. I'm going to see if he finds what I found. And I don't want to do it, but if things don't straighten up here, or you don't straighten up, I'm going to go down to the state administrator hearing and report this. I don't want to, because I don't like bringing this into the county, but I don't like what I see. Thank you.
Larry Knudsen?
Larry Henson, 44, 226th Street, Post Station, Minnesota. Barry, you said so many inaccurate things that when your little speech that you had after the open forum, you know what's wrong about the open forum is that you always get the last word. And I've never liked that. You never let citizens talk after you get done with your inaccuracies. So I'm going to point out a few of them. And the first one, you said that Ben Grimsley at one time didn't get to be chair because of his committee list. That's absolutely false. He got stymied for a little bit because of his committee list. He eventually changed it. He was chair that year. You made people think that that was not rotation. It was rotation. John, did Barry speak to you about that committee list? I know you reached out to him several times. Never, ever talked to you that he didn't like the structure of that committee list. Howard, there, you lied again. You sat, and Nate Bull sitting right back there, he can testify to the fact that when you came up here, you told us you felt power sitting in that chair, and I said, I do not feel that. I'm assertive to the people, there's no power involved in it. And then I reviewed the video that you spoke last time, I feel no power in this chair. That's a lie, Barry. Can you not at least keep accurate in your field? Good job. You said, yeah, we have a rotation. We have a great rotation thing. If you do a good job, you can expect to be the chair next year. John, did you do a bad job? I don't think so. I think you did a very good job. And you talked about, if you watched the meetings, you saw how disruptive or how uneasy it was. Yeah, it was you, Barry, sitting in that corner, playing on your phone most of the time when the rest of us were trying to conduct business. So you're the one that was disruptive in those meetings last year, not anybody else. And you know what, Barry? I didn't know this for 18 years. But it turns out you've done this before. I found out that when, and you mentioned it in your spiel after the board meeting, that this happened when you and I and Karen were elected, and that it didn't have a rotation. No, guess what? I found out that you, Harry Solomon, and the other commissioner got together before the informational meeting and had it all set up who was going to be chair, Harry Solomon, and who's going to be vice chair. So you learned from where you come, and if you don't know what that means that you've either done it before or you've seen it happen. So it just is not right, Harry, what you did. And you need to step up and not just say you're sorry to John. That doesn't play. That doesn't play. I can say sorry all day. If I keep on with the same behavior, it doesn't mean a thing. Thank you for your time.
Don?
Don Scary, 25793, County Road 149. We'd just like to welcome, it's a little late from the commissioners. I did get a chance to talk to Dave the other night. And, I think both of you have ran for the right reasons, and I think you're great additions to the board. I know there's been a lot of turmoil here. And I'm kind of hoping everybody can look forward instead of backward, or it's going to be a long, long year. John, I think you can do it. You didn't like what's going on, or what happened, but I think you'll have the best interest of the county and pretty confident. Richard, I saw your little thing on Google. I wasn't too impressed.
Well, Don, you don't know what's going on.
Can I
Well,
speak?
yeah, go ahead.
The last time I came in here, it threw me out afterward. And he told me he didn't respect me anymore, and Bob Franklin, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. But, you know, you haven't given a committee report in a year. And I think it'd be a good idea, if a person can't give a committee report, maybe you shouldn't even get it from Dean. I think it's something to think about. I mean, instead of working on doing a good job here, you're going around behind Barry's back and just lambasting. Your opinion's your opinion, but at least I had balls enough to come in and talk to your face, tell you. But no, you go to these meetings and you go on, you lose your temper, you holler at your constituents. And I'll tell you something, I don't think your constituents are gonna be very impressed after they watch that video. You might have a handful that think it's great, but I think you kind of sunk your own ship. And what I found out, if you hold grudges, the person you hurt the most is yourself, because it just eats you out. I've gone through that, and it doesn't pay. So I hope they'll take my advice. Thank you.
Carrie? Morning.
Carry over 1998647 raising. I'm kind of mentioned it, but I wanted to ask you folks if you had a chance to review that video, both YouTube and Facebook last Thursday. Have you? Pat, have you reviewed it? John?
Chair, just so you know, I'm not gonna be responding to anything there to communicate with you. It's an open forum, so.
Anyway, I would invite you to look at that. Pretty embarrassing for Becker County. One other thing, the only other thing I had was, been hearing a lot of our administrator running around saying that it only takes 3. As a citizen of Becker County, I would like to know what that means. It only takes 3. I have a good idea what that means. However, an explanation would be great. But it only takes 3. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thanks, Gary. All right. That concludes open forum on the list. Does anyone else wish to, on the list, if you wish to sign up? Otherwise, we'll conclude open forum. Thank you. Reports and correspondence. Richard?
I don't have anything.
Start out the,
It's actually, I do, I want to say something. I have a lot of things. But unfortunately, and this is the truth, here's one thing I will say, that I don't lie. Now, there's a lot of things that could be told about this county since I've been here in the last 2 years. There's a lot of things I could put in reports. But they would only hurt the county. And this is where I'm at today, is where I've been driven to by what goes on behind the scenes. So when people look in from out and they're looking in, they only see half. And it's too bad everybody didn't know, but maybe in time we will know. That's my report.
Lakeland Mental Health met and we're very strong financially. I think you've gotten some notice that the annual meeting's coming up. The annual meeting, you're not required to. It used to be a little bit bigger deal, but since COVID hit, they quit the in-person meeting and the attendance. So if you wish to go, you can go personally this year or virtually. There is no luncheon. We used to have a luncheon, used to be kind of a bigger celebration, but there's just a quick meeting and then we have our regular meeting afterwards. So their bottom line has been really strong this year. It's an 8% margin. As you know, they're building a new facility up in Moorhead and it's coming along fine. They're remodeling, they're building new, and then they're going to remodel the old part as a second phase. Couple things going on, and this is part of our job here that probably the county, most citizens don't understand or see us working on it. We do some lobbying things if we're active in state government, in the state part of the government, and there's some very concerning things going on at the state that we are fighting against, or we should be fighting against if you're active in the AMC. One of the things is the preliminary drainage proposal by the DNR. They are proposing new language that would require an additional 30-day wait period for ditch processes, and their language. I mean, I've personally had a conversation with the commissioner of DNR, Sarah Stroman, at our last AMC meeting and argued that this is bad for rural Minnesota and how this would increase costs, how this would delay projects and the extra burden of government on there. And I encourage especially our new commissioners to get involved in state government to carry these causes and arguments at the state level. If you don't do that, if you don't have a voice there, we're losing our ability to change or at least have those conversations and not, you might not win your battles, but at least you can steer it back towards the rural counties. The other pretty significant piece, and I think or John probably would know, or maybe Richard do, about the proposal for eliminating or making the solid waste incinerators being obsolete by 2040. That would cost millions of dollars for Becker County in the long run. So if you're not aware of some of the things that commissioners do, this is some of our work is to lobby not only state legislators, but the commissioners from those departments, and even suburban and city legislators, because they don't understand how some of their language affects rural Minnesota. It's a big part of our job is that communication. Let's see. One of the things we want to talk about coming out of natural resources is the RAC committee. The RAC committee has been fairly inactive. We would like to ask the opinion of the board. Do you want us to continue with the RAC committee, or should it be dissolved? We had a discussion and thought that it would be best we get a board discussion at this time. Any thoughts, anyone?
What is the RAC committee?
That was my question.
Recreation activities, what it's advisory committee. What we used it for is when there was bigger projects coming in using tax forfeit land, that they would go through that committee and then NRM to try to see where we should go with that, what we should do. It's been pretty inactive. Usually it just goes through, and before that it went through NRM. It's been around for what, Mary, half a dozen or 6-8 years. It started when we had the ATV clubs trying to have forest trails or trails going through county land. So
I think it could be handled through NRM.
okay,
Part of that anyway, so.
I know Richard and I were on the committee and thought that was probably a way we should look at. I just wanted to get input here, and
Yeah, I think that's, if you guys recommend that, I think it's good. And then if we need it again, we can always create it.
we'll bring that language. It was a board established committee, so it'll have to be board
Yeah.
reviewed, and if we hear anything between now and then, we'd bring it back, or if there's people that wish to comment on that. So we'll bring that back. See, I have my. Well, that's for finance. So, do you have anything for committees? I get a couple.
Okay. I had the West Central Regional Juvenile Center meeting. We discussed some upcoming legislation. They're asking for counties to support the probation funding resolution. They had said that AMC would be sending out something for counties to sign. We also had just a discussion about requests from other members or other counties to become members. Also had the EDA meeting where we talked about, we had a ARPA request for Wanagan Park. So we saw a presentation on that. I think that looks like it could be a really big asset to our county. Then, of course, we also attended the AMC conference. And I just wanted to say 2 takeaways kind of that I took away from that meeting. One thing that was discussed was how is the board's biggest responsibility is the oversight of the budget. I believe we really need to make sure that we're spending taxpayers' money wisely and need to ensure our budget is being followed. So I would just like to have, moving forward in 2003, make sure that us as a board has extra oversight over our budget, just because we do have inflation and it is a very important job to manage the taxpayers' money. The other thing that I quoted this from one of the slides, and it says that we as a board have to invest in our employees. They're the greatest asset in the county and we need to listen to them. And this is at one of the conferences, and afterwards we spoke to an administrator from Washington County, and they do an employee engagement survey every couple of years. And then afterwards they go over the survey with the board and come up with a plan to address the concerns. He did send information to Pat, and I believe he was going to pass it on to HR. So just something for us to consider. I think that especially what has happened recently, I think that we need to really do good by our employees and listen to them. So,
And the other thing too, along with that, it would be from an outside agency.
yes,
So
yep,
it would be completely anonymous and then no possibility of them thinking of any repercussions or whatever, or like employees do. Like At the school, we have the same thing. They make it anonymous so nobody knows.
Then I did have a phone call yesterday with James Skoog, who's an ombudsman for MnDOT. He's working with the Isaac Walton League to resolve the Highway 34 logging issue and the scenic byway. One of the things that he had asked is there had been previous conversations with former commissioner, Mr. Larry Knudsen, about a possible maintenance agreement with our highway department to help with some of that extra maintenance to hopefully make it so they don't log the trees off. He's asking if the board would be willing to pass a resolution to execute a maintenance agreement. And my understanding of what that means is that doesn't mean that we agree to a maintenance agreement. It's that they're then allowed to, our highway department or our board, whatever it may be, and DOT are then able to negotiate. If we don't come up with a negotiation, then the agreement is not signed. So, but in order for us to come up with a negotiation for the agreement, we have to have a resolution. I told him we probably would not vote on it today, but I would bring it up at open forum. He did email me some examples of language that would go in the resolution, and I can forward that on to Pat so that we can then maybe think about it and discuss it at the next meeting.
I wouldn't comment on that. I guess I was really surprised. I was out of town last week and I got back and I read an article that we had a proposed agreement for MnDOT. It never hit the highway committee or anything, so we knew nothing about it. There was possibly some discussion with past Commissioner Knudsen if there's a possibility. But if we take on another stretch of highway like that, we're going to probably be looking at additional personnel and additional truck. And trucks right now are close to $300,000. And then the additional liability for covering that, so.
My understanding in talking with, because I had a conversation with Larry about it prior to the meeting with Isaac Walton, and he said that what he had proposed was that they would do extra salting from 37 to 26, I think it is, where the Osage garage is. So I said I would bring it up, and it's up to the board, what we do from here. So, another thing is, AMC does have a planning and zoning conference on March 3rd in Staples. It's $75 a person. Because I'm on the planning and zoning committee, I would like to go to that. It's $75 in Staples. Then one last thing, I have two people one on the Board of Adjustments and one on the Planning Commission that their appointment expired in January, and I spoke to both of them and they would like to be reappointed. So that's Harvey Aho.
We'll do that under appointments.
Oh, sorry. Okay. That's all I have.
Maybe you want to bring that to Highway Committee to review it and give a recommendation.
We're scheduling one this week. I think it's Thursday morning. So over that back and bring it because he's going to be in attendance to go over some funding for the new building. So.
And then I'll just forward that to you, Pat, the email that I got from him.
Okay. Anyone else?
You want to go first, John? Or
You can go.
Okay, so Historical Society. So Becky Mitchell is the executive director and she is working her tail off. She's doing an awesome job. She is, they are working around the clock to get that museum ready and it's awesome. It's gonna be great. So last Wednesday, they had a sneak peek for the donors. So the donors came in at 4:30 and they had Don and his wife were there. They were serving food and they had some appetizers, some food. They had some, adult beverages too for some people, and they had some other stuff. And the donors were allowed the main floor area, which is the second floor, was available to look at and walk around and see some of the activities that mainly kids could do, which is awesome. There's some really cool stuff there. And then if they wanted to tour the rest of the facility, then one of the board members would take them around and tour. And so that went really well. Then they had their annual meeting for their members, which was right after that. And we did the same thing. Took them on tours and showed them everything. And so they're planning on having their grand opening on the 17th of February. And they're going to have, so when you walk into the Holmes Theater, you'll walk up the stairs, like you would walk up to the theater, but you'll just keep going and then you'll get up to the main floor of the museum. That'll be ready for being used for the grand opening. The exhibit areas, which will be on the first floor and in that area, that probably won't, that, I'm pretty sure that won't be ready to be used by then, but it'll be definitely that they're working on it. But it's really cool. It's something that I encourage everybody to go look at, because it's and there's so many opportunities there. There's a party room that they can, they could have a birthday party for kids, and then they could go into the museum main floor area and play all these games that they have. They have really cool games. They can do it. There's opportunities for kids to learn science stuff. There's a recording studio that's sponsored by Leighton Broadcasting. There's another room that Colin Peterson donated all of his office when he was when he was in the state or not the house, federal house. And so they're going to make a replica of his office. It's going to be really cool. So I encourage all of you anybody to go check it out. Okay, so next one, we had a Fair Board meeting last month, and the board wants to add 2 members. They had 2 members that are no longer on the board, so they're going to do that done in the next meeting. One thing that I found out that's really interesting is our fair board and fair is self-sufficient. And most of the fair boards and fairs in the county, or not in the state of Minnesota, in our region, in our area, are not self-sufficient. So that's a cool thing to do. There's another issue. The city wants to pave the Midway. And then they want a long-term usage agreement. So it's a big issue for the Fair Board to decide what to do. They're going to come back with some options for the next meeting, and then they're going to discuss it and they're going to vote on it. So it's a big concern. It's a big one. And then also they're writing some grants to get some money from, I can't remember the names of the grants now, but they might hire someone to help do that. Richard, do you have anything else on the Fair Board? So courthouse committee, we talked about a lot of stuff. Mary came in with the auditor treasurer, so she's going to present it to us today. One thing that I would like to say about things that are in the budget that are already budgeted. So for example, she's going to request a full-time position and a half-time position that are already budgeted in her budget. Anything that's already budgeted, I think, is a very easy thing for me anyway to approve, because it's already in the current budget. So that's one thing. And then the Becker Bay online auction. Okay. So Becker County does this every year, and from February 2nd to March 8th, they collect donations. And then the online auction is from the 15th to the 22nd. And where does all that money go to?
Food pantry.
Food pantry. Yeah. So it's a really good thing to get involved in, and you can donate anything you want, and then you can buy stuff too. And then Lisa Will came in, our assessor. I think, is she going to come in today? I can't remember.
She won't be in today, but we'll still review her items.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in the. And then the veteran service. Betty Bigger donated $250 from the veteran service, and human resources. I believe Carrie's going to come in and talk some policy with us. And then
commissioners usually donate to the Becker Bay.
Yeah.
Becker eBay. So
then the last one I have is the transit. We had a transit meeting, John and we were there. So one thing that, and I'm not exactly sure if I have this correct, but Kevin told us that he is able to carry over his budget from the previous year if he has extra money in it. So he currently is able to carry over $59,196.65. Is that what?
Generally, we can on the local, and then there's question on the state balances, sir.
Okay. So that was a nice thing. Then another really interesting thing I found out with Title VI, which is the requirement that if you have a certain number of different language speaking people in your county, you have to, like, front a bus, you have to have English and Spanish, for example, if you have a certain number. Well, we don't, in Becker County, we don't fall, we're required to do that because we don't have enough of those people. And he told us how many, we have 21 Spanish-speaking people in it as their primary language in Becker County and 63 Chinese-speaking people in the Becker County, which I thought was interesting.
And I think Chinese, it's extended into Far East. It's not, it's
Okay.
it's more than,
Oh, and then also in the transit, they ordered a new bus that'll be here in a year. So I think that's it. Oh, do you have anything on Sunnyside there, Barry? I apparently don't.
no, I don't have any updates.
Just to add a couple things to transit there, there is $100 increase in the bus purchase. And the dealer we're just eating at, but Department of Management, this is state contract and it's got to be right on. So that'll be before us today. And also the drug and alcohol policy was updated so it reflects what it should have been. And so more of the federal guidelines and what you can do and can't do on that. So very good move there.
All right, anything else, John?
Otter Tail 1, Watershed 1 District. Brian's here today and we'll present the implementation policy and a little update. Did have a Prairie Lakes municipal meeting. Lee Rogness from Otter Tail County is elected chair and Bill Stearns was vice chair. Letter to support Becker County Swiffer grant application. And Otter Tail said we'll have to look at a different source in a few years, say 6-7 years, to deposit ash because the site there at New York Mills is about full. A couple different ways they can handle it is try to expand that site, but there's a lot of that ash that's being used in road beds, not in the base, but regrading of roads, mixing it in. And it really helps to end up a good solid road base. So that's an option. And Barry had mentioned that about the legislation that could make incinerators obsolete. They think we have an out because it's a little bit different, but they are lobbying very hard against that. So we're very aware of it, and the manager down there is really working hard to get letters out and get support. So
Is that part of the clean air,
that's part of
the act or whatever that they're trying to pass?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot involved in it, but they think there might be a little clarification on what would be obsolete and down the road. So
I think that was by 2040, wasn't it?
yeah. And Plasma's really pushing to be on the bandwagon to support that solid waste tax coming back from the general fund to the counties. They collect it from us, but they keep it. So that'd be a big help for the counties.
That's, we're getting double taxed on that because if you're aware, on your garbage, there's a 17% tax that goes to the state. Some of that goes directly to SCORE funding. That's your recycling, but a good chunk of that goes into the state general fund, which we find is not right. It should go back into SCORE funding. But the second part of that is we are doing a better job on our garbage by using an incinerator, which is a cleaner form and very highly regulated than people just hauling to a landfill. And we're paying 2 to 3 times more to do a better job with our garbage, yet we're being taxed at a higher rate because because our cost is more, we're paying 17% of a higher cost. So we're getting penalized a couple different times for doing a better job handling our garbage. But we've been fighting that battle for quite a while and haven't won it yet.
Go ahead.
Thank you, John. Moving on to appointments. Did you have appointments?
I have an appointment for District 1 Planning Commission, Harvey Aho, who has been on the board previously or is currently on the board, and then Delvon King, who is currently on the Board of Adjustments, and his term expired also in January and wants to be reappointed.
Okay. Make those motion.
I make a motion to appoint them.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by John. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any other appointments? I have Ellis Peterson, make a motion to appoint Ellis Peterson to the Cormorant Lakes Watershed. That is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Also want to appoint Roger Boatman to the Board of Adjustments. I'll make that a motion.
I second.
Second by Erica. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And Jeff Moritz would like to stay on as in planning and zoning. So I'd make a motion to appoint Jeff Moritz to planning and zoning. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any other appointments? Okay, moving on. County Administrator.
Yes, Commissioners, so just a brief report on some items. Our bargaining unit negotiations are ongoing. We just had a fairly long one here yesterday, and both commissioners were able to attend that meeting, and we have several here as we get into our third round of negotiations here for the month of February. I think
Could we get a closed session at our next meeting for updates on that?
we certainly can, if that's what the
Okay,
board would like.
thank
Yep.
you.
Is that what the board wants? Okay, all right. And so the, again, we're expecting to be bringing some completed contracts here in March, but what we've always done is we really want them to bring it to their bargaining unit and vote on them before the board considers them. I believe you got this in an email, but there's the 75th anniversary for Soil and Water. I just want to make sure and remind you if you've received that. Certainly you're all eligible to attend, and there is a cost for that, but I wanted to remind you and the public about that event. We do have our RFP that went out for the class and comp study is completed. It went out this week, so it'll be advertised in the newspaper. It will go out to particular vendors that have expressed interest. We are developing an RFP for insurance quotes. As you are aware, the public employee insurance program, we by statute are under contract with them. That contract expires here in 2023. We have to give a certain amount of notice to them if we decide to not continue with PEEP. And so we'd like to test the waters and see what vendors might be interested in bidding on that. Our plan is to bring that preliminary RFP through the benefits committee. That's made up of a member of each bargaining unit and management membership. And there are also two commissioners, I believe it's Commissioner Nelson and Jepson that sit on that. So we expect to have a meeting here first quarter of this year to review that RFP and also to review some other information relating to insurance. And so unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to go right to ARPA. And I will go to ARPA, and we're going to put that on the screen. You do have an ARPA agenda item that's something that's gone through courthouse and finance committee, and that's the county assessor has requested ARPA money for funding a flyover. So you'll have this on the screen, and we'll wait till she gets all the way to the top there. If you see something in green, this is something that the board is approved. I did have the assessors one in green because I'm just making the assumption the board will approve it here today. So software has been an ongoing challenge, for the county to improve its software. We originally last December 20th, we had budgeted about $1 million for software. That's now 300,000 because you'll see as we go further down that screen, there's going to be a number of other sections of that software that have been approved. But we see in green right now is the Civics Plus agenda. That's our new agenda management software that's been implemented. The Human Services Building, the HVAC and boiler, that's been approved and implemented, as has the roof. We have looked, and you see it in white, the remodel old jail. That's a vacant area there, although we use it for storage, and it's also used by the sheriff for other things that we won't elaborate on. But in the end, we do want an assessment on what that space could be in the future. But there's been no direction from board. The installed drain fields actually was approved by the board. That actually should be green, and that has been implemented over in the new solid waste campus. These other items, add restrooms to MRF, add the office to MRF, add restrooms to lower level human services, the Dutton Lock Shelter are all under consideration, but nothing has been officially approved. There's been an election expense that I believe supplemented a grant for election equipment. Digitizing records, taking all the paper documents, turning them into digitizing methods are all been approved by the board, and those are ongoing. Digitizing records for human services, we have purchased equipment, and that is an ongoing effort. If we got any other ideas how we can finish digitizing those records, we'll bring them to you, but we have that listed as a concept to consider. Recorder shelving in the recorder's office, courthouse updates in particular, the judges' chambers, the state offices have all been implemented. We have implemented IT storage expansion as well. Items that our IT director is supporting and we'll be discussing through committee are IT servers. And you see the amount there along with the replacement of the WatchGuard system for the sheriff's office. Again, those are not small costs, but those are things that need to take place. Human services, there's quite a list there. The two commissioners, Commissioner Jepson and Commissioner Meyer, that they sit on the Human Services Committee, there'll be another list of items that'll be reviewed with you as well. All these things have some level of momentum, but there are some new items too that will be brought to you. And certainly one of the things that we would want to have discussion as a board is long-term is the Human Services building where it's at right now, where the county would like to see it? Or would you like to look at a different opportunity? And I think that starts at the committee level, but when we start getting into small costs like water fountains or things that we couldn't really avoid, like, boiler systems so people can be warm in the wintertime or a roof. Before we get into some bigger ticket items, we would like to have a discussion is that the destination? If it is, that's fine. We then can make those investments. County highway, this will be reviewed at the highway committee. These are for non-budgeted items that weren't part of the highway new building project. I didn't put the list there, but just out of my memory, landscaping, cameras were listed on that list along with appliances, furniture, and fixtures. So we'll have the highway committee review that here this week, and that'll be brought back to the board. But the estimate of that is around 300,000, give or take. We're waiting for some final numbers from the highway department head. Moving on with the county attorney's office, got a good list there. I would add to the list, and certainly the county attorney has communicated this to me, is since the building of that new building, there has been some areas of the building where the cold air is getting in and it's not making it comfortable for people to have meetings and things like that. So we're looking at just a minimum fix there over the winter time and then a longer term fix to address that situation. But a fairly long list, not only the windows, but the office chairs, things along those lines. And no different that we're asking all department heads is put lists together for internal projects. County attorney also brought the idea of a comfort dog that I met with one of the staff people there. That estimate's about 2,500. That's a small estimate, but a long-term investment too. This would be a dog that would actually help with the services that they're providing to people that are in distress, so they can be more effective in communicating with the attorney's office. And many counties have this, and we've looked at grants as well, but we hope that the board will endorse that here in the short term. County Sheriff's Office, 4 drones that was approved by the board, and these are drones that would go into each of the sergeant's vehicles and be ready on demand when it's needed. Very long list here in white of other sheriff's requests for the EM trailer. I believe the cleaning machine was approved. Sheriff, we approved that, so that can go green, Amanda. And central drone, the board wanted to kind of wait on that, but certainly they were supportive of the drones in each of the vehicles. And I think SWAT equipment was also something that has gone through committee, but we'll continue to have these items to go through committee and hopefully be brought to the board. As you can see, some bigger ticket items like command post, helping with the impound building or something that are on the list. County administration, again, you've approved the class and comp study, so that's an estimate, of course, because as I indicated, the RFP's already gone out, so we don't have that information yet. These are ideas that were brought that haven't moved forward, like well, we reviewed the idea of doing a community-based comprehensive plan. I think this board is open to that idea, and I will tell you, the estimate is based on, comp plans that I've been involved with in the past. We do have a professional expert in comp plans that'll be coming to the board next board meeting to review a community-based comprehensive plan, so you can ask questions and see if there's value in this. And we did throw out the idea of investing in really capital projects across the board. And even funding, designing a full countywide capital improvement plan. That actually was brought to the board. There wasn't an interest, although there are some departments where there is a capital improvement plan. By Minnesota state statute, it's not required, but it's recommended that you do not only a community-based comprehensive plan, but also a capital improvement plan. This was just brought up because it was brought up for discussion, and I think it has history in it, but whether we want to update or expand the security entrances into the buildings. I won't really elaborate much into that, but just that's been listed. And then also an exit door for scanning personnel as well, just to keep better movement of our scanning people. And again, these have been ideas that have been considered. Continuing on, the water fountain upgrades, those have been approved and are ongoing. Snow removal equipment, a purchase has been made and that delivery is imminent. We hope it'll happen during the wintertime so it can be used to clear the sidewalks with greater ease and quickness. Air intake and systems, that also has been implemented. We had situations where exhaust was getting into some of the rooms because in the wintertime, people are running their vehicles and that exhaust will get into the lower exhaust intakes that we had, which we now have raised to much higher. So that has now been eliminated. MinCCC, that's kind of one of our software components that have been implemented. Childcare was an ongoing thing, was an early thing that was funded by the county. Another software that has been, it is in process with implementing is the human resources payroll software, and there's been ongoing meetings to transition that. And then video conferencing technology has also been implemented. Planning and zoning brought the idea of using a drone to help with planning and zoning and ditch reviews. That is something that, we don't have any more information on it, but they brought it up as an idea, so we've included that. EDI integrity employee benefits was an effort for us to automate the employees to be able to register their benefits. In the past, it was very labor intensive, and we wanted employees to take ownership of that. And so that has been approved by the board and implemented. Catastrophic leave bank, of course, is a policy that has been implemented, and we had suggested maybe investing some money and kind of priming the pump there. And although we have received some donations so far, it's not to the level we would like. So that was just an idea that was brought to the board for consideration. Pictometry project, it's not officially green, but it will be green if you approve it here today, and we expect and hope that you will. Fleet vehicles has been an ongoing concern at our department head informal meetings, and we have a lot of old fleet vehicles, and I think the policy and the philosophy has been let's continue to run them and just pay the expenses of upkeeping them. And you'll have to forgive me for my spelling because I just added that today. That should be towing package and not towing package. I'm not sure what towing package is, and gas cards. Those two are not in our vehicles right now. And we've had some real situations where people have been driving their fleet vehicles far away from the office and their vehicles broken down. And we really just need a policy or a plan so they can take personal ownership for themselves and not worry about what their next step is. And so at a minimum, we'd like to see towing packages and gas cards put in vehicles, but we really would like to see new vehicles being invested in. And our philosophy is if you do that and you put them in a system of they stay under warranty, your focus is really on kind of preventive maintenance, things like tire rotations, oil changes. When it hits the that expiration date on their warranty, you would sell that vehicle, then replace it with another vehicle under warranty. That's typically what companies like Enterprise do. And what our thinking is, and our goal here is to have a internal system that we can manage instead of paying an outside firm to manage it for us. And so that's an ongoing discussion with department heads, but we are looking for some board direction on that. I think the final software piece is UDK software, and that's human resources, payroll, and time card software. That again, we've invested in. Keep in mind, the initial investment was 55, but the bigger investment is what you see is around 350. And the board has approved that. Just coming to the end here, power upgrades for the courthouse. We have new generators, but if the generators kick in, not everything in the building is powered. So we'd like to make sure we understand what isn't powered and see if investments need to be made with the right infrastructure so that the county can function. The tram for the boat system was offered as an idea. Again, there's been no board direction on it, and so we've listed it on there. Soil and Water brought up an idea, and technically that should be under outside agencies, but we do have a relationship with Soil and Water, so I listed it here. They're expensing funds where there are no funds related to doing upgrades with regards to septic systems. And so they inquired through their executive director about the idea of perhaps receiving ARPA funding to assist with those type of grants. And then finally, we did an AED CPR first aid training where, although we have a good, robust system to make sure our ADAs are functioning and they're charged, we wanted our employees to have the opportunity to get trained on how to use them in case the unlikely situation were occur. And so these what I would list are internal projects. That's all I'm going to review with today. But the reason what we want to bring these to you, and we're going to do that every other board meeting, and hopefully with items that you can approve, is we do have a number of external projects, and a couple you've approved. One of them was the food bank, and the other one was the 4-H building. But we are starting to get inquiries from they've been patient, but we're starting to get inquiries from the external agencies about, well, what about us? What about us? So I've really urged the internal departments and these internal projects to push as much as we can through this quarter, and then hopefully get to the point where we've gotten all the direction we need from the board, and then start reviewing those external projects. And I'll leave that up and see if there are any questions. Okay. And if not, we'll move on. Commissioners of probation review, it's on page 11. Brian Rubenstein, you want to come up with probation? So this was an AMC direction as part of the legislative initiative. They've sent out this to all counties to approve a new and revised formula. And I thought with Brian being the Department of Probation that, he could provide some guidance and input on that formula. So I'll leave it to you, Brian.
So basically what we have going on here is the work group is discussing how to get counties on an even level as far as their funding goes. So what happens right now in Becker County, we have 3 of our corrections agents up in the county office. Those are supplemented by county funds, which is in our CPO model. Those agents are reimbursed what's supposed to be at the state level of 50%. Over the years, because of the money that's in that pool and the workflow and the funding that's coming out of that, we are currently reimbursing counties, I believe, at about 28%. So there's a little bit of a lower reimbursement than from the standard 50. So what's happening is we've also have our felony side agents, which are paid for by the state, insurance, wages, travel, equipment, etc., at no cost to the county. So basically what we have is 3 staff where the work group is coming up with a different formula to get all counties at the same level so that their reimbursements will always be that 50%, regardless of what happens. And so that's kind of the biggest thing in regards to the work group in regards to what they're doing with funding. There's 3 different delivery systems. We have Community Corrections Act, which is kind of similar to what Hennepin and Ramsey does. There's some other outliers within the state where they have all supervision services within their department, but then all the cost comes from the county side, reimbursed by the state for a portion of it. And then we have county probation, which is what we have here, also with the DOC on the felony side. So just to kind of give you a quick express journey on what's about to happen. The state is, or the work group, again, like I said, is trying to get it so that it's even funding so that we can get those reimbursements back.
So today you're looking to pass resolution 223-1K. Is that the AMC supported?
Yes, only at the direction of Pat, if you guys would, we would appreciate if you pass it, because it ultimately is good for the county. In Becker, Otter Tail, and Monoman that we have in our district. So yes, if we would totally support you passing that as well.
Could I ask,
It doesn't change any services, doesn't change anything of how we do things here in Becker County.
It's just a request for additional funding for the
Correct.
normal channels.
Commissioner Nelson, if I could just ask, I've been involved with transitions with probation, and it's all county funded too. In this situation where there's a contractual relationship and there's like a partial funding, we do have county employees that are in your department, and usually in the transitions I've been involved with, it's gone always to complete state employees and not just some county employees. Do you see in the future, and I don't know if this would help if this funding formula changes, where that transition could come to a conclusion where it's fully state employees that are in that department as opposed to just some county employees that were using tax levy dollars to fund?
Correct. And I think what's going to happen in this work group is that's going to be a point of discussion too, where those county staff, whether or not it's the counties that are actually hiring and doing all those components, but then we assist with reimbursement of those staff for those agents. Because what happens right now is I only have 2 county staff, part-time county staff. I think it's about a 56-hour total between the 2 of them that supports the other 3 agents. Okay. And so really the cost of the county is for 2 secretarial staff. And so in the future, I think in this work group, that's one of the points that they're going to be discussing.
Okay. I guess, entertain a motion to support or to pass resolution 223-1K supporting the urging of legislature to pass new funding formula.
So moved.
Motion by John,
I'll second.
second by Erica. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all for your time.
Well, and Commissioners, the final item I had was, I'm taking this on because the Veteran Service Officer is out, but Resolution 0223-1L will just accept a donation for use in the Veteran Service Office. This was reviewed with the Courthouse and Finance Committee.
1L.
Okay, motion by John,
I'll second.
second by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. And thank Betty Bigger for the donation to the Veteran Services, and that money will be used directly to benefit the veterans themselves, whether it's tokens or other forms. All right, Mary.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first item we have in finance, I'm requesting a motion to approve regular claims, auditor warrants, and over 90 days.
Make a motion to approve claims, auditor warrants over 90 days.
Motion by John,
Second.
second by Richard. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Next, we have 3 licenses. The first one is a 3-2 off-sale renewal, Jolly Fisherman Resort in Round Lake Township.
Wishes of the board.
I'll make a motion to the 3 jobs.
Okay, there's a motion by Dave. I'll second to approve the 3-2 off-sale renewal for Jolly Fisherman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Entertain a motion for wine and strong beer for Jolly Fisherman renewal. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve that one.
Motion by Dave. I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. And the last renewal for off-sale Smoky Resort in Carsonville Township. I'll make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
second by Ms. Jepson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
The next item we have are the December reports, requesting a motion to accept the December cash, sales tax, and investment reports.
Mary, I had a question for Jim or for you. I noticed under natural or under gravel reserve that money, that fund balance is still pretty high. Were we gonna use that money to fund a road? If so, are we gonna transfer that over to? Yeah, so that might help our bottom line in Public Works building if we can transfer that over. So, okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, entertain a motion to accept the reports.
So moved.
Motion by John. A second by Richard. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Next, I'm requesting approval for resolution 223-1B for hiring a full-time cashier.
This is the position that's been sought for a while now. We got a little bit more information from Douglas County correcting some information that we had or clarifying. This is within the budget was budgeted for. And it's the part-time positions are being harder and harder to fill. So was looked at and approved at committee and asking the board to pass resolution 1B.
I make a motion to pass resolution 1B.
Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Richard. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
And the final item I have is resolution 223-1H. That is a part-time cashier position due to a vacancy.
Some of the discussion on this is situations that this is going to be difficult to fill in a normal. But were we looking at making this seasonal?
Seasonal, right.
And-
They would work part-time hours, but yes, it would be available primarily between May and October when it's our busiest time.
When would, on this part-time that this person just left, is it possible to hire a seasonal? And we had some questions if there was a person that just wanted to work seasonally, or were we crunching hours? Because I think that's do you want to move forward at this?
Yes.
For this one at this time?
Right, because part-time, we set the schedule, and so we can work with HR to see how they want to, when we get ready to advertise it, how they want to classify it. Because I think, I'm not sure if it's seasonal or temporary, there's a limit of 67 days on one of those classifications, so since we just lost this person, well, this week, they were transferred to another department in the county. So we've got some time, but we would just want to get approval to get it advertised.
How are you going to advertise it as a
Well,
permanent?
we have to
permanent
still-
part-time or
that's what
temporary
we're
or
thinking.
seasonal?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I've got to talk to the HR department.
Could we maybe get clarification how you want to advertise that and bring it back, or is this do you think this one's timely?
Well, I don't know. The part-time positions that have been posted, we are not getting applicants, so.
Well, I think we have a fit for your peak periods of
Right, exactly.
window load, but it's I don't know
I think, if I may, what you can't do is probably do the temporary because of time limit. I think what she's asking
Mhm.
Is a part-time position, but then hitting her high points. I think that's something that I can have. So I think what she's asking is for, and then we'll work in mind not to go over the hours. So and
Yes.
that answers.
Yeah, we just can't, okay. To answer the question that we can't do temporary and seasonal or temporary because it probably constraints us too much to get those.
that's what she wants to be.
So if you could, if we approve this today, could you bring this back to committee just to kind of hash out where you want those, or kind of so we can get an agreement where these hours are needed most and the times, because it's kind of a unique position when the traffic flow in that window is, there's 2 times tax time and election time, and that's what we need the most, so. So, okay, wishes of the board. Committee did recommend to repost this.
I'll make a motion to
1H.
1H, approve 1H.
Okay, motion by Dave to approve resolution 223 1H. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Richard. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie.
Good morning.
Morning, Carrie.
I am going to start with just a little bit of background for specifically the 2 commissioners and maybe a recap of what I've spoken about before. Going back to when I took this position, one of the main objectives was to really take a hard look at our personnel policies, as well as doing some rewrite of that and new language, as well as really looking at what policies we may be missing that we want to bring forth or do away with, either or. So with that said, I have a couple of different rounds here, really looked for what is the mechanism to bring this forth to the board, because obviously if I'm looking at rewriting the entire personnel policy, that is very time consuming. So really just looking at avenues to do that. I did bring this, the start of this again back through the courthouse committee and had some discussions with 2 of the commissioners at that point. And really where the discussion led us is at the beginning of the personnel policy, and everything I'm going to talk about today will tie in, is really talking about roles and responsibilities of the board, department heads, and actually speaking to what's already been said today. Is it necessary, for an example, only for an example, is it necessary to bring back positions when they're budgeted for? Well, our personnel policy indicates it is, but there's been already discussion, is that necessary, or is that something that we should take a look at? That's just one example. So we also had a discussion in courthouse committee as well, as far as mission and vision statements. I had one written for human resources specifically. And then as I looked at that in other departments, I think that's probably a bigger discussion as far as the county and goals and where you want to be, well, how you want it defined, and that's going to flow within into each of the departments. So I won't be bringing that.
Did you find the former mission statement?
I found some, I believe they were dated, I want to say it was 2010. But I think you were referencing probably not that far back.
Well, I know Brian Berg and Steve was there. We did have a mission statement and
Specifically for the county. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I found mission statements there was one written for the county, and then I don't recall a few of the departments as well. But there may be something else out there that.
Well, I know we spent quite a bit of time on that over at the Greystone. After, we had many meetings about it, so.
Okay, yeah, I know you mentioned that, so. So that's a little bit of the background. So questions about that at all before I move on?
I think touch base with the board on some of these, and I would like to have a working session, kind of with policy and include department heads and seeing which direction we want to go. Because this is a lot of these policies their policy shifts at this time if you want to change them. And I think our hiring process has been very cumbersome, and we need to change that. And I think we spend enough time in our budget process when we set our annual budget that if we have a person that resigns or retires for some reason, that position should, if it goes through, an example would be if it goes through your committee, then the department head can immediately offer that for advertising. So those are the things, but I think we should sit down as a board, have some work sessions and go through those. Maybe after every meeting, we can spend a half hour on it at the ends of our, future meetings. So that's acceptable. We can start scheduling some of those if you want to. But I would like department head involvement in those, I think. And sometimes it's nice. We used to go over to the Greystone Manor to get off site. It sometimes helps dialogue and discussion points. And we did that in the past, went over to Greystone as a meeting room in the basement. So.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm certainly not opposed to taking input from all, and I think more eyes on policy is certainly better, and somebody else may know something historically or why something is the way it is versus what I would know. So I would welcome, whatever suggestions those may be. But, to really look at how to do this effectively, I really believe that specifically with the personnel policy, looking from the beginning and starting to go through. And then again, there are policies that I have written that I'll be bringing forth to the board that are not in our personnel policy. So with that said, one of the other objectives when I was hired was really to take a look at our county onboarding process for new employees. I have several things written, but what I am finding is that our personnel policy really doesn't align with our policies and really what you want new incoming employees to know and what you want them to be informed about as far as, well, parking isn't one, but, how they should dress, time, all of those things. They're just, things don't align. So one thing affects the other, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So.
Well, Commissioner Nelson have always said that the hiring process here is too cumbersome and takes too long. When you're spending 3 months to actually get into interviews, it's probably too long. So,
Yeah, agreed.
The way the market is now competitive, hard to find to jump on it right away.
you gotta go
Yeah.
immediately.
So, yeah, and if those of you that were on the board previously, that is one of the areas that I had brought before the board prior and, specifically to the hiring process and the cumbersomeness of that, and would like to really take a look at how we're operating and streamlining processes. So, all right. So in your packet, you do have a new policy. It's titled the bereavement policy. Currently in our county, we do not have a bereavement policy. So I feel very strongly that this is needed. I did do some benchmarking. Certainly more government entities have this than don't. There are examples that I had shown the courthouse committee specifically, but felt that since this county does not have that, and I know even since I've been here, there have been some examples of new incoming employees that they've lost somebody within their family, they don't have time to take, etc. So I think this is needed for our employees, and I did a very more of a simplistic bereavement policy, which again is included in your packet. So what I'm asking this board today is to approve that policy, and then that would be implemented into our current personnel policy.
Yes, and we did review this, and I talked to an employee that I wish we'd had this, sooner. But we're here where we're at today. I think get this in our policy. Did you want, now in committee, you offered, there was a second paragraph. You just eliminated that completely, or?
I did eliminate that because really when I reviewed this again, and I had indicated there were some examples, I do know that there is one bargaining unit that does have some language in their contract. Again, you could stop and start defining, who this applies to as far as how far you want to go into family. I stopped at the immediate family, so as you can see, it does not include, I believe, where the stopping point is aunts, uncles, and cousins. That's where the stopping point is. Now, if the board would like that added, I'm certainly open to that, but I felt like we needed at least a baseline for immediate family.
I think it has I don't see what it doesn't have in the between the first and the second one about relate, I mean, your spouse, grandchildren, grandparents.
The only thing it doesn't have is aunts, uncles, and cousins, and I think not this one, not that one, the one.
The one in the packet.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Any other discussion?
I would agree. I think it's something that we need. I know that we've had a request for it by other bargaining units in the past. So I think that this is an important thing to have in our personnel policy.
Well, if I could just add something, Commissioner Nelson, it does eliminate the need to have to negotiate with all the bargaining units, put something in place in the personnel that covers all. And so it certainly eliminates that as a topic to negotiate.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve as written in your packet.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, on to the next item. I do have in your packet an exam or the copy of what I'm asking to delete. It's titled 12.33 Employee Emergency Situations. As I understand it, when the prior board approved the catastrophic leave bank, that this language should have been struck out of our personnel policy because it is in direct conflict. So I'm asking to have this language struck from our personnel policy because in place of that, again, in the prior approval was my understanding that was supposed to happen, and I'm not sure why that didn't happen.
And I think this was an oversight, just, I mean, I don't like the policy that we haven't, I mean, the new policy as well as, but understand that there was regulations we had to follow, but this is just an oversight we should get rid of because it's contradicting what we have. So entertain a motion to,
Move to delete 12.33 of the personnel policy.
motion by John, second by Eric. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. And you have some information, just some information for us in the next,
Yes, I put in your packet just so you could have it for reference. I know there's been, prior to this board and currently this board as well, questions perhaps or comments with regards to exit interviews. And I wanted you to have the form that is sent out so you have it for reference. So this is the form that goes out when people leave employment with Becker County. And I thought it was important as I reviewed the information that I did have access to, just to give you some, really what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for individual comments. I was really looking more for trends, how can we do better? And what are employees saying as to reasons why they're leaving? So with that said, I'm going to move on here. So at the top, sorry, Amanda, if you want to go back to the top. Let's see, right there, reasons for leaving. So when I looked at this information, the top reason for that people gave for leaving employment with Becker County was for higher pay. And then the next in line was improved work-life balance. And close and trailing, if you will, was people were taking employment to be closer to family or home. So those are the top three. And then again, going through the information just to allow and give some feedback to this board, looking for some trends and some high points again, and I'll tie this into some of the prior comments, but really probably the number one that I want to inform you of is that really what employees are saying is that there's really a lack of opportunity to advance in Becker County within their position. So they're looking for something maybe bigger, better. And there were concerns cited with roles and responsibilities. Whose role is it to do what? And I think that speaks to what I've already said within the personnel policy, the board's role in decision-making as well as department heads and day-to-day operations. So there was a trend in that area as well in the information that's in the exit interviews. Other things that were cited,
people are looking for more constructive feedback throughout their performance while they're working here at Becker County. And, with the implementation of performance reviews, I do believe that we are moving in a direction that we need to go. So, we are doing some things which are already highlighting some of these things. As far as higher pay, as you all know, there's been an approval by this board to move forward with, much more in-depth market studies and comp and salary studies. So again, not surprising that some of this, that this information is in the exit interviews. Questions at all that I can answer?
How long have we been using this exit interview?
It predates me, so what I can tell you is that I took the data that I had access to, and I've been here since August 1. So
Okay.
I took any and all information that I had access to. I'm not sure exactly when this form was implemented.
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, we implemented it towards the beginning of the year. I came on in late in 2020. Noticed we really didn't have a formal process, and so we did a lot of benchmarking and implemented. I don't know the exact date, but it would have been first quarter 2021.
22?
2022, excuse me, yeah.
22.
That's right. No, I see. Yes, thank you, man. But anyway, it was something that we do feel is important to make sure
I agree.
why people are leaving and understand that. We do consider the documents proprietary, although we can share kind of gross data with larger data. But certainly if an employee wanted to waive their confidentiality and share it with someone, that's on them, but we wouldn't share that unless we have their permission.
Are you consistently getting them back?
Yeah, I figured I might be asked how many I was looking at, so I did pull a number. It's hit. I shouldn't say it's hit miss. It's unpredictable. I'll say that. So the data that I looked at, and again, it predates me prior to August a little bit. I had access to 16.
Okay.
So that is the trend that I am providing the board today, is off of 16 returned. With the exit information or exit interview information, I think that's integral to how we move forward and where we make improvements. And I think it also rolls into how do we roll exit interview information into stay interview, getting employees for retention. And I think that probably speaks to what you already presented to the board. Looking at engagement surveys and listening to employees and where everyone can make improvements. So I feel like we are moving in the right direction. So any questions before I move on to the next item? Okay.
Maybe just to add that, I think you kind of reference this, but performance reviews are integral to exit interviews. So exit interviews are just the last opportunity we have to talk to an employee. The performance reviews on an annual basis, and we certainly encourage department heads to meet with their direct reports monthly. I meet with my direct reports monthly because what I've indicated to them is when we get to the end of the year in your performance review, you should be able to even write your own performance review. It's based on monthly meetings, and so that was also something that was not happening for years, and so we implemented a requirement, certainly with department heads. But that's how I'm measuring them. They have to show me they're doing performance measures of their employees. And it's a very robust way of doing it. And it's been very helpful because, like I said, there's been a very long stretch of time with some examples of one or two departments that were doing reviews, but just not happening. And that's part of our county policy. We require that.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice segue into my next topic of the leadership training. This is scheduled and will begin, and I've spoken to the board about this previously. This is slated to begin. The first session is February 16th, and some of those topics are exactly what we're speaking about here. Training our leaders for leadership skills, as well as how to implement, performance measures and how to coach your staff throughout, similar to what Pat had indicated. So it all rolls together.
So that's something, the leadership training we're doing here?
Correct. All supervisors, all department heads.
Okay.
Yeah, there are 2 sessions, and we are partnering with the local college here And there's been a contract that's been signed, and that's been an ongoing discussion with this board, but it will begin here shortly in February, so it is slated to begin.
Okay.
Okay. Next item, I am asking for approval of the resolution, the 23-1G. This was brought through the committee courthouse as well as finance. What I'm asking within this resolution, we currently in the maintenance department slash in that department, there are 4 current part-time custodial positions that are open. And as I indicated earlier, I've been here 6 months and I've been through the round of hiring at least, I think it's twice now since I've been here. Difficult positions to fill, difficult positions to maintain. So as we looked at this, really what we're asking is to combine 2 of those part-time positions into a full-time position, hoping that we will get a stronger pool and that we will be able to maintain that position.
And is that the full-time custodian, is that for in the courthouse here or over at Human Services?
We had some of those discussions and depending on what the pool, because there was also discussion in committee as far as there's been a budget for a full-time custodial staff out at Highway, bringing that person on potentially. And then depending on how the full-time hire goes to adjust, but we certainly will keep somebody at the level that is already over in Human Services, but they may be, sharing until we get positions filled.
We had discussion in finance that as far as the highway to start that ball rolling sooner than later,
Mhm.
because there's gonna be a lot of work just starting to move over out of the old building when time comes, so.
Yes.
The hope is that we get multiple qualified candidates to form a pool here and because we're short more part-time people, we can't keep or fill part-time people. If you do get someone hired on in these part-time positions in the county, they roll over so fast that by the time you get any training and any job experience, they're moving on to other jobs that either full-time or pay better. There's always unique situations where part-time people fit perfectly and that's where they want to be, but they're rarer and rarer in today's world. So we recommend making a full-time out of these 2 part-time. I see if you look at the cost is actually going to be under budget this year and it'd be very close ongoing because it was positions not filled this first month. So
I think that just here today, we're hearing a bit of a trend about part-time positions. So I make a motion to approve
1G.
1G. Yep.
I'll second.
Okay, motion second. Any other discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. My last item is this is just for point of reference. It's been, with COVID and things not happening, we felt it was important to bring back employee recognition for years of service. So this is on our radar and has been, and Peggy in our office has done a lot of the behind the scenes work, if you will. But we do have a date secured, and what we are looking at is the first board meeting in March or following the board meeting to recognize those employees for their years of service according to policy. So just wanted to make you aware, and we will be sending out here shortly a save the date to those employees that we.
And you plan on bringing that through committee, I would assume?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So then going back to our policy, did we agree to meet after meetings?
We will schedule that on the agendas or
Okay.
depending upon what we have, what you have, and maybe we could just get what we probably do is have a committee meeting, determine what we want to present at the, for full board discussion and to go through at the next board meeting.
It would be helpful just for me to have a little bit of a notice.
Right. So if we go,
because I would need to take a little more time off.
well, we could hopefully schedule these, directly after, like today's, we should be done by 10:30 and just do an hour.
Yeah.
Or 45 minutes or half an hour, just go over a few things in a group setting rather than, and then we can put them on for the next board agenda to approve. We don't want to rush through something at one board meeting and then we need some time to review it. So we'll probably look at some of that at our next committee, seeing where we should start and recommendations if you want.
Yeah, my suggestion would be at the beginning. That's what I would suggest, because otherwise you're going to be.
Please
trained.
not say, don't say mission statement and
No, I didn't mean that beginning.
those are,
No, I said I would forgo that
Okay.
pending.
yeah, I
bigger
think
discussion.
we do have some of that language. We could review it and, I know we had that we spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, and I know people have, opinions about mission and vision statements, but, there needs to be discussion about what is the goal of this, what is our goal moving forward for Becker County?
Okay,
I think that's great.
So, that's all I have.
thank you.
Thank you.
Denise?
Good morning.
Morning.
I have a series of board reports for you for your consideration or for your review and approval, if you would.
Okay, I'm not getting there they are, adult. How do you want these? Entertain a motion to approve adult services, behavior health, child protection, and child support, income maintenance. Public health. Do you want all those in one motion or?
That's usually how it's done, but
Okay.
it's completely up to you also.
And A through G? Entertain a motion to approve the reports for those adult service, behavioral, child protection, child support, income maintenance, public health, and Q4 combined board report. Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Okay, is there a second? I will second to accept the reports. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Claims, human services, public health, transit.
Motion approved.
Motion by John to approve the claims. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Is Lisa here or is she not?
She did communicate to me, Commissioner, that she would not be here today, and she also indicated, even though this went through the committees, if the board wanted to table that to the next meeting, we could. But I know she did review this at the courthouse committee and the finance committee, and she's recommending that the board approve it as outlined.
Let's go with the first one anyway. It's a pretty simple abatement that was, so entertain a motion to approve the abatement.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by John, second by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. The pictometry, does anyone want to table that to the next meeting? If you have any questions for her, I think it would be appropriate to table. If there's no questions, this is a continuation of what we do currently.
Yeah.
We did currently. I don't see an issue to table it, but if you wish to, we certainly can put it back.
More or less doing the second phase of the original flyover to
Yep.
finish it, so.
Yep.
It's
And it's a
very well
three-
needed.
It's a 3-year deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 3 years.
And Lisa did, I said she should bring this up. She feels that this saves her a 0.5 person
Mhm.
annually. So
Yeah.
it has benefit for her, and then it has benefit for other departments as well. So,
And it helps her, even though taking on quite a few more townships or cities without adding additional staff
Yep.
with this type of,
I think it saves.
I move to approve the purchase.
okay,
I'll-
motion by John,
I'll second it.
second by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay. Jim? Thank you, Lisa.
Morning, Commissioners. Have one item for your approval. Approval of Resolution 0223-1A. This is final acceptance and approval of final payment to Mark Sand and Gravel for a number of projects that were completed this past summer. Project work was on our County Road 5 on the west side of Cormorant, County Road 7 just north of Lake Park, County Road 15 between our County 6 and Trunk Highway 10, and County 2 between Melissa and Sally. And we also had 145 in the southwest part of the county and 2 township projects where we partnered with them to help them save some money. Work was completed satisfactorily, and it's just a little bit over budget due to paying some incentives and some additional work on one of the township roads.
Move to approve 1A.
Motion by John,
Second.
second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Jim. Kevin, transit.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My first resolution is a revised bus order that I brought to you about a month ago. What had happened is the vendor made a $100 adding error, unfortunately not in our favor. Due to governmental pricing, he could not absorb that. It has to be done by the contract rules, so it's going to cost us $100 more to get a bus. So, and the state needs an exact resolution.
Okay, so
Motion to approve 1C.
motion by John, second by Richard to approve 1C, which kind of corrects our other request. So this will make our old request obsolete, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Okay, the second resolution, 23-1D. The state and the FTA has now revised their policy on how often we have to update our Title V programs. Every 3 years, we'll have to update it. So this year would be an updating year. So that's the reason for the new policy and program, just basically updating it from what we previously had.
Wishes of the board.
Move to approve.
Motion by John to approve resolution 1D,
Second.
second by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. And your last item, 1E.
Okay, the last item is basically updating and revising our FTA drug and alcohol program policy. When I reviewed it, there was old definitions in there and old language. Plus, I also added a couple different policies that I think we really need to have. One has to do with the alcohol use. And if you are called in or you're in a safety sensitive job, if you stated that you've had any alcohol use at all, in order to continue work or to come to work, we'd make it mandatory that they'd have to take a alcohol test, just really for liability reasons. And to have a policy that's really defined for those safety sensitive people.
Move 1E.
I'll second it.
Motion by John, second by Dave, and this went through your committee also.
Yeah.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Steve?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We have 4 items to bring before you. There's Resolution 02-23-1F, that's to hire seasonal workers, and approval of the snowmobile trail cleanup cost share. I'll get into that in a bit. Setting our timber auction dates, and then give you some background on a grant that we're applying for. There was some information in your board packet regarding seasonal workers. Wasn't all there, so if you don't mind, I'll share this with you. We're looking at hiring more seasonal people. And the pay range would be basically the same as the highway's hiring it. It'd be 17.5 to $19 an hour. And one ask that I have is if we could add $1 an hour for weekend work. So get $20 an hour for somebody that's got experience. So basically the idea would be that if we started people at $17 to $18 an hour, if they don't have experience, then we can go up to 19 if they're working just regular hours. But if they're working odd hours or at the tram, which is really what that's geared for on the weekend, we could pay up to $20 an hour for that.
I'd imagine you would want holiday pay in there also if you're over the 4th.
I don't think we have anything in our policy for holiday pay, you mean like time and a half?
No, I was just saying the 20 instead of the
Yeah, well, the 20 would be for,
week. It says weekends, but
yeah, just weekends, whatever weekends is, because we just have a difficult time finding people that are willing to commit to working on a weekend. I guess that's my thought was, if we're willing to do that, that's what I would do.
well, the only holiday would be, well, I guess there's two now.
This would be for the hours that they, basically it'd be $20 an hour for the weekends that they're working at the tram.
Right, but if they're working on the 4th, I was thinking, I mean, you pay time and a half on the 4th on that?
We do,
Oh,
on,
okay.
well, not for a seasonal worker,
No,
no.
he's scheduled that regular shift.
He would be paid the $20 an hour.
I would say, or holidays if you don't qualify for seasonal, or if you don't qualify for time and a half,
Okay,
time and a half. And now I think, June 19th is also that would qualify
oh, okay.
as of,
Could I just inquire, we have a lot of seasonal workers, so soil and water here, highway. Have we done that in the past for those? employees?
No, this is the first time we've talked about adding actually time and a half for,
I didn't say time and a half.
you're talking.
I'm just saying the 20,
Oh, sure.
The extra dollar.
The extra dollar.
if it's weekends or holidays.
Weekends.
Got it.
are
I misunderstood. Okay.
That's all I was insinuating. If you're paying it for weekends, it should be, then it would be weekends and holidays at 20 up to, but not including if you are qualified for time and a half.
Correct.
I don't know if that's acceptable or, I mean, or if it's not going to conflict with any union discussions or.
No, these are not.
That person is certified level 1 inspector.
No, they're a lake service provider, so they're not a
There's some training.
AIS. Well, there's some AIS training on it, but they're not they don't go through the AIS training to where they can do decontamination or anything like that.
I would say if we want to do that, I would say just pending legal opinion to make sure it's
Okay,
appropriate.
sure. So with this, we would have one that would be working at the tram, and then 50% of the time is working on the solid waste campus, and then 2 of them would be working with solid waste and or backing up at the our STS crew leader in the event that he can't get a crew. And then one of them would be working just on updating our forest inventory.
Move to approve 1F.
Motion by John,
Second.
second by Erica. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The second board item is approval of some cleanup costs. Earlier this year, there was a snowstorm where there was a lot of heavy wet snow, and a couple of the snowmobile clubs came to us and asked for assistance to help clean up the snowmobile trails going across county lands. And this has went through the Natural Resources Committee, and we approved them doing that, and with the caveat that it would have to come back to the county for approval to pay for some of this. And so in our Natural Resource Committee, it was basically approved to pay up to 50% of the cost, which was $15,138.56. So we need board action to move forward on this because it's a non-budgeted item.
Right. Is there anyone here that wants to speak to that on the public? The rationale was this was done on county land, county managed land, and it was done on minimum roads or forest roads. So that's why we felt that there was a need, it improves our access to those sites too, because those trees don't just, so we figured that this bill, I think, was their total bill. And we felt that this was a fair amount that would compensate them for spending time on our properties that we receive a benefit from. So that was our rationale.
I'd move to approve the request to reimburse up to 50%.
I'll second.
Okay, are you leaving that open-ended or are you
Well, we sure we got all the invoices in from,
We can check with the other clubs and see if there's other ones out there that have it. These were from the clubs that were in the north end of the county, which is basically where all our tax forfeited grounds are, so North Central. So if there isn't any more, that would be I would anticipate a smaller amount, but we can for
Okay.
sure double check.
So as listed, you would, does your motion read the dollar amount, or do you want to include that?
The dollar amount for now, and then if any others are submitted, you can bring them back.
Okay,
Okay, so the dollar amount, the total dollar amount would be $7,569.28.
Correct.
That's for the motion maker and second. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
thank you. So basically, so if there's additional claims, we'd bring them back for consideration. Thank you. The third item is setting the 2023 timber auction dates. They would be set, they're set for Friday, May 5th and Friday, October 6th. So basically, we need a board motion to approve the auction dates.
Okay, do you have a time that you want to put on those, or just time to be determined?
Yeah, time to be determined.
Okay, request a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by John.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Erica. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The last item, for the new commissioners, our recycling program has grown quite a bit over the last few years, or last number of years. In 2017, we built a recycling facility. In 2019, we added some machinery so we could process things quicker. We also applied for a grant to expand the facility, so we're adding 19,000 square feet to our 12,000 square foot facility. So we got some bonding money to help with that, and also some funding to help put in a new baler and some conveyors. But we also planned in there so that we could add line and some machinery to sort out paper mechanically from cans and bottles. And the federal government came through with a grant round for up to $4 million for this EPA district to specifically to expand capacity and make them more efficient to process single stream or recycling in counties and local governments. There's some different rounds that are coming about. There's one for the state and there'll be one for the tribal governments in the future. And so we brought this to committee. There's a real short timeline to respond. It initially was January 15th that you had to respond by, and this was in December, and they extended the deadline out to February 15th. Well, to do this, what we did is we contacted our regional partners in Clay County and Moorhead are very much interested in this because they're sending their recyclables down to the Twin Cities to be sorted and taken apart, along with Wadena. And so I talked to our administrator, and we needed some help to complete the application because they're looking at not just short application, but they want letters of support. They want documentation showing the greenhouse gas and the efficiencies. And you want to tell the whole story, what we're doing here to try and make this a regional facility if possible. And so we're looking at $1 million plus in grant aid. So when we brought it through committee, initially we talked about maybe a county contribution up to 20%, but this $1 million, $2 million, $3 million that we're looking at, because I still got to finalize that number with our consultant. But there is not a requirement that you have a match, but we thought we would make some just to make our grant more competitive. So to do that, we reached out to Foth, which is a environmental company that had did a regional study on recycling for the Prairie Lakes Municipal Solid Waste Authority in the past in 2016. And they gave us a quote of $5,000 to help do this. And so we approved that and we're moving forward on it. And I guess just to tell you that, just to update the board where we're at on this, and per our purchasing policy, that's where we got to be.
So you have moved forward on this, correct?
That's correct.
So you want a motion to ratify the
That's fine.
expense?
Yeah.
Correct.
That'd be.
And I think that's the appropriate way to do things. And when you have to make a decision, it has to be made. And I think it should just, you're kind of asking after the fact, but I think that's appropriate in this case because you had to know quickly. I'd prefer that than any other way. You know, go to your committee if they feel it's something that should be done and appropriate and they get approval. You know, you have both commissioners then come back and ratify that expense. I don't have any issue with that process at all. So
Okay, thank you.
as long as it's not huge dollar amounts. This is something So what was the dollar amount or what was
The amount was for $5,000. You know, with that being said, it seems like a fair amount of money. It's not a huge amount of money for professional services, but what it does do is it sets us up. So even if we don't get funded through this, if the county, along with our regional partners, decide to reach out to the state in the future for some funding for this machinery, we'd be set up to do that. You know, it's a good thing. So, any questions?
I think we should have a motion.
Move to ratify the $5,000 for the Swiffer grant with WAF.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have Richard. Brian. You second, right?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
Have the resolution to adopt and implement the Otter Tail River One Watershed One Plan, Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan. It was recently approved by the Board of Water and Soil Resources on January 25th. And so now our next step is to adopt the plan and then submit the work plan and budget for implementation to Bowser in March now. And that funding should be available to us in April, May, something like that, to begin the implementation process. So asking your approval to adopt and implement the Otter Tail River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan.
I'd move 1J.
Motion by John,
I'll second.
second by Dave. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. You,
Brian, that's one question. Anything coming on the new district that Erica would be the commissioner on
The Crow Wing,
wing?
that planning process is just getting going now. So I believe we presented your contact information to the Hubbard SWCD. And yeah, we should be meeting soon. I think I haven't seen any timeline for sure, but it'll be.
Commissioner Jepson,
Yep.
we CC that out, yeah. There's a little confusion because we seem to have oversight over multiple ones, so and who, Commissioner Oakson sits on one, Commissioner Jepson sits on the other, but I think we got that resolved, and you'll be getting a communication when the meeting is ready to go.
All right.
do you want to, what is the date and time of your 75th anniversary, and congratulations?
Thank you. Yeah, our 75th anniversary, we were formed in officially June of 1948, and we'll be celebrating that 75 years on March 16th, Thursday, and begins at 5 o'clock. We have supper at, I believe, 6:30, and then presentation and entertainment after that should wrap up about 9 o'clock. So we hope that you're able to attend. It'll be at the Holiday Inn in town here. So.
Okay, it looks like seating's limited, so make sure you get your reservation. And this, just for your information, this is not a event that usually would be paid for by the commission or any expenses so it'd be on your own. And if you do get to events where there's more than a quorum of commissioners, you just don't talk any business about county. I did state I can't make it, but congratulations. I have my daughter's in a basketball game that night, so fortunately we won't be there.
Sure.
Oh, wait,
Yeah. And
that's March 16th. I got to double check. I had something. It wasn't basketball.
our presentation will be about, at least the last 25 years of our activities with the Soil and Water Conservation District. So should be good highlights of things, how things have changed and what we've accomplished, at least over the last 25 years.
Okay. Thank you. And then we got Carl's going to give a.
Thank you.
Morning, Carl.
Commissioners, I'll keep my remarks fairly brief here. This report you have brought up is 17 or 18 pages long. I always put that on the soil and water portion of the county's website, so members of the public can review it and you could review it as well. But I'll just let you know when I'm ready to advance through here. Any questions, please go ahead and jump in. If you could just scroll down to the next page here. I have this report, next page. It's organized based on elements of this program, but for our new commissioners here, I'll provide just a little bit of a background. So in 2014, the Minnesota legislature created funding for counties to prevent aquatic invasive species. That funding is divided out among Minnesota counties based on how many boat ramps and parking spaces for boats we have in the county. With our many lakes here, we receive a good amount of funding every year. We receive around $340,000 a year for this program, and this report just is required to continue receiving that funding. So one of the smaller things in terms of cost overall is outreach and education, but it's always a priority. This is we don't have the inspectors or law enforcement to be out there policing all the public accesses. We want boaters to follow the laws related to AIS prevention, and part of how we achieve that goal is outreach and education. On the outreach side of things, I focus on inter-county partnerships. We fund TV commercials, printed materials, highway billboards, things like that with groups of counties that the laws are all the same across the state. By working with other counties, we can reduce those costs and get that outreach message across the state. On the education, I see education versus outreach. Education is more of an in-depth discussion I have with folks. For education, I focus on youth. There's the City Waterfest and a number of events where we have school children come in and teach them about natural resources things. I keep AIS curriculum as a part of those youth events in the county as much as I can, at least 2 or 3 events a year. And then also just in-person presentations at meetings. The Lake Association meetings, I hit as many of those as I can. Things like talking to folks at the county fair. They're low-cost things, but it's a priority, and I try to do that as much as I can. If you could scroll to our next slide, please. So the bulk of our expense with this program is watercraft inspections. We try to hire up to 30 inspectors and assign them to the high-use public accesses within the county. These folks check boats, make sure boaters are following the rules related to invasive species, and help them out with cleaning up their equipment as needed. Part of my reason for attending today is to have a signature on our delegation agreement for counties to do a watercraft inspection program. We need to agree that we'll follow the DNR's rules and have our staff trained by the DNR's training staff every year. So every year we renew that delegation of powers agreement with the state. And for this year, I asked that we just renew that agreement so we can hire our team of inspectors and get back to work in May. You could scroll ahead, please.
Carl, I think you're coming to the point or to that last, it was your region milfoil that you found or that was found. But what's really scary to me, what's the most scary of all your presentation is the starry stonewort, and it shows how many boats came into Becker County and docked in Becker County lakes that have come directly from lakes that have starry stonewort.
Yeah, if you dig into the spreadsheets towards the end of
that's scary.
It's on our high use lakes. Yeah, there's a number of people who said that the last lake they were in has starry stonewort. Yeah, and Barry's been involved with this since the beginning in 2015 when I started the program. We've seen some impacts from zebra mussels. There's an aesthetic impact, there's a recreation impact, but it hasn't really that impact hasn't translated to a big cost for our
Or reduction in property value.
or that, or even environmental. When you see that Otter Tail One Watershed One Plan, lakes are pretty healthy biologically, despite a decade of zebra mussel infestation. But in southern Minnesota, central Minnesota, huge impact from these invasive plants, and that translates into costs for lake associations, city governments. The DNR has a small pot of money for that management, and that goes out the door really quick. And these are just, it turns into an ongoing battle with these invasive plants that in other parts of the state. And fingers crossed, we continue to be spared that. This slide just shows a little bit about what the inspectors see. We're seeing the violations are low and continuing to get better. And the amount of watercraft coming into our lakes who report last using their boat on infested waters is going up, which makes sense. As more lakes are infested, there's more potential for that last boat or that last trip to have been on an infested lake. Scroll ahead, please. This shows, those specific invasive plants we were talking about. You see, as starry stonewort has spread throughout the state, the number of watercrafts coming into our accesses continues to grow. With Eurasian milfoil, it's kind of up and down. It's kind of holding steady with the last trip the boater took, reporting that was from a Eurasian milfoil lake, but still 160 opportunities a year, and that's just when we had people on site. Shows the risk, and I think why we need to have a program like this. Could you scroll ahead, please?
Well, this program to counter that, I mean, on a bigger lake, you don't have enough money. I mean, we don't have enough money to eliminate that from a lake. It's just, at this point, it's not possible to eliminate starry stonewort from a lake if it gets in.
No, it's not. And the tools we have for controlling invasive plants in lakes are limited. It's pretty much hand removal. I mean, if you can imagine going to the lake and hauling out pitchfork loads of wet plant material and trucking that out of there, the cost, it's a mess. And there's lakes that are out of pocket 6-figure amounts for one lake for just maintaining recreational boating and traffic on the lake. That's on the high end, but it's something that you see in the state, huge amounts of money. And then the next year it grows back and you're at square one. This graph shows our watercraft decontaminations at the number done per year. And that's been on the decline, for 3 years. And I've had this discussion with lake associations, and people say, why aren't you seeing as much use of that decontamination equipment? I guess from what I hear when I'm on the access sites and just as a boater myself, as we see, the hot water decontamination was intended to reduce the risk of zebra mussels spreading from lake to lake. Hot water kills the zebra mussels. It was a tool that we reached for early on in this AIS struggle. And it has its place. And there's certainly boaters that appreciate it and seek out our decontamination equipment every year. But that decline, I guess what I'm hearing and seeing is as our high use lakes have zebra mussels, there's less of a reason to decontaminate because people are going from, say, Pelican to Detroit. Maybe in 2017, 2018, before one of those lakes had zebra mussels, there was a big motivation to get decontaminated. Now, a lot of people's boating activity just takes place on zebra mussel lakes from all of our main big fishing destination lakes, Becker and Otter Tail County. So it takes away some of that I think, motivation to it. But I'm going to continue to use this equipment. It's still in good shape. And again, we have people from all over the state who come and they'll give me a call and say, hey, I was last in this lake and I'm going to visit family here. I'd like to just have that peace of mind knowing my equipment's clean. And with this money coming from the state, I think it's worthwhile to just keep using this equipment. It does provide a service for visitors and tourists to the area. Scroll ahead, please. Monitoring and management. So monitoring in this program refers to just our efforts to go seek out these invasive plants or invasive animals like zebra mussels, but it's focused on plants. We do that with volunteers, with professional contractors that scuba dive, and I do that myself. That it consists of going to an access site or a place with high boat traffic and looking at the plants that are there. It seems like a low-tech thing, and it is. It's just simply looking around for plants, but it's shown across the state in a number of different lakes. If you can find these plants early on before they're widespread throughout the lake, you have a chance of getting ahead of it, getting on top of it, and maybe limiting it from spreading throughout the lake. Even untrained, volunteers in Minnesota have found a small patch of starry stonewort at an access site, hand removed it with no chemical, and they're seeing. That's really the only encouraging thing that we're seeing with these invasive plants is that early detection can pay off big. We do that again with my efforts, just searching around at accesses at our. If you'd like to please scroll ahead to the map on the next page. These, this map, it shows up a little bit blurry here in the scan. Those red boxes are public access sites that are high use, and they have, in our data, it shows that people are coming into these sites from starry stonewort infested lakes. And also the University of Minnesota's AIS Research Center shows, they do some modeling to kind of predict where we might see these plants across the state too. These are what, a combination of their data and my data shows as the higher risk sites. There we actually have a contractor who's runs a lake sciences, LimnoPro Aquatic Sciences is his business. He's a PhD lake ecologist. He comes out and actually scuba dives these sites in like a 200-foot by 100-foot box for really that higher level of early detection that I think is worthwhile. And we will at least maintain these sites, if not expand to other sites as I talk with the public and see kind of what our priorities are. But that's something that the public tells me they see a lot of value in. It's a proactive step to kind of maintain the boating and water quality access on their lakes. So something I get good feedback on that will be continued. And so management, so this is the monitoring side of this part of the report. Management refers to actually, managing invasive species in lakes, plants, managing invasive plants with herbicide. We make a couple of small grants available for groups in the county, a lake association or a watershed district or anyone who's paying money to do management of these invasive plants can apply to us. And we offer two $4,000 grants. Typically in the past few years, those have been awarded to the Pelican Watershed District, who does a great job managing that flowering rush on Detroit and Sally, and also their curly leaf pondweed management, and also out at Toad Lake. They are, again, going out of pocket in the 5-figure dollar amounts for curly leaf management every year. They reached out to us, and we carved out a grant to help them with that, because I think that if it's by a public access site, that management could be called a prevention activity. If you've got less curly leaf right at the boat ramp, hopefully maybe you've got less of it going down the road, potentially to other lakes. There are lakes in our area that are good habitat for that curly leaf pondweed that it hasn't been found in yet. So, despite it being in our county for many, many years, I think there's still a reason to prevent that from spreading too. It does cost the Toad Lake Association a good amount of money to knock that down every year.
Carl, I think you're aware the Middle Cormorant Lake actually taxes themselves, puts a tax on their property tax to help fight curly leaf pondweed annually. So
yeah,
they've been very proactive and that, like you said, there are lakes that is suited for more. I mean, Big Cormorant is directly downstream, and I don't think it's been a problem. Big Cormorant's it's a much deeper, different environment lake than Middle.
Yeah, you're not going to see the invasive plants as much of a problem with a lake like that with their hard rock bottom and the wind and stuff like that. But
that does not include starry stonewort, because that's not a
right.
That's a different. It doesn't have roots.
It's like algae. Correct. So that with the amount of boat traffic at a place like Big Cormorant, that whole chain of lakes is on our radar for that starry stonewort, and we're on the lookout for it. If you'd like to scroll ahead, please. I'll see if there's anything else I can. Oh, this is just a map of the Pickerel Lake. flowering rush sites. There was a property owner who noticed a really small patch of flowering rush within the lake. And we've just worked with the DNR to check the shoreline of that lake and treat it where it's popped up. We did see it at the public access as well. We've not totally eliminated it, but I think the herbicide treatments there are keeping it in check. That again may be a thing where it's limited by the habitat in the lake. It's a harder bottom, rockier lake, so it might not spread as quickly there, but the herbicide treatment is very low cost because we time it when they do the herbicide treatments here in the Pelican watershed. So it's like $20 or $30 to just do a quick spot treatment at these locations. And I think it shows the need to check these public access sites for invasive plants because we're keeping on top of it and it's not spreading throughout the lake as far as we can tell. Go ahead on the slides. I'll just go through these quickly. This shows where we're going to work next year, how many hours we want to work at the various access sites. We just determine that based on how busy the accesses are the previous year in terms of inspections per hour, also how many accesses and resorts are on the lake. Not a perfect metric, and we do adjust things around as we see boat traffic change. Just trying to, use those dollars in an efficient way. Next slide, please. You can go through these fairly quickly if you're interested in some, light reading in the evening. If you're really curious about this stuff, there's just spreadsheets that show what the inspectors see when they're at the accesses. If the boaters are in violation, what lake they came from, et cetera. I think it's fairly easy to pull this data together, and there are folks at lake associations that really like to see that. We're able to secure, $10,000 to $20,000 a year in donations for added inspection hours, really by using this data and showing there is a risk at your lake. These are the times and days when boaters are coming in. Maybe we should bump up that schedule a little bit. Something that we do every year, just allowing lake associations to purchase more inspection hours. There's a couple groups that partner with us on that. Next slide, please. And this just shows kind of how many boats are coming in that said their last trip was on a infested lake or river. Across the top, you have the species, and then the numbers there are just the number of boaters who said that last trip was from a lake infested with that species. Advance the next slide, please. Just the rest of that data. And if you go to the next one, you'll see just a comparison of what we had budgeted for the year and what the expenses actually came in at. On to our next slide, please. Just kind of a monthly breakdown of the income we receive versus where it goes based on those categories. Next slide, please. This one got kind of broken up in the editing process or something. This is just a 2023 budget, what we plan on spending. You can see, again, the inspections. We've had to raise rates to recruit folks. As Steve mentioned, it's hard to get folks to work weekends and do this, but we've been able to reach our hour targets every year. We've got some folks who, that seasonal weekend schedule really works for their lifestyle and schedule, and really, credit to those folks who have worked as inspectors long-term for this program. It really makes a big difference for me in training people, having less new staff. Hope to get these positions posted here in the next couple of weeks. Just kind of fine-tuning those job descriptions here this week. This is just the rest of the budget and what we'll be spending in next year. So yeah, I guess with that, I ask for an autograph here on this agreement again, and looking forward to another year of running the program.
Right. Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to autograph the agreement.
And I'll second. That's a
Delegation agreement.
the delegation agreement through Becker, Soil and Water. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Carl.
Very good. Thank you, commissioners.
Brandon's going to give us an update on County Ag Inspector. I did.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I am Brandon Gill. I'm the new County Ag Inspector. I just started of May last year. I took over from Marsha Watland, who worked this position for, I think, 17 years. So she had a lot of experience, and she worked part-time this summer to help train me in.
I think she was, she's been an employee at Soil and Water for 17 years, but hasn't been with the ag inspector for 17 years. I think she's transferred to do that
She did it part-time for a number of years.
right? But I think we started, she was
Maybe
started in Soil and Water.
It's at least
different,
a dozen years that she's been doing this.
Yeah.
So.
got a lot of experience.
So she's been helping me out there, and she just retired in December. So this is kind of just compiling all of our data on what we do for the county, what benefits this position has, because it is a county funded position. So I just kind of have numbers breakdown on what we do hours wise. This last year, since it was my first year, I did a lot inspection wise. I spent 200 hours just inspecting the county, driving around, looking out where noxious weed issues were. One thing that I did get done this fall that was pretty exciting, I got over 300 different landowners marked down for potential legal notices for the coming years with noxious weed issues.
Does that includes, I know you monitor the state and federal lands too to make sure they're compliant, correct?
That does not include them. We have a pretty good working relationship with pretty much all state and federal agencies. So I just give them a call and they take care of it as fast as they can.
But they are required to follow our local
Yes.
rules also.
Yep.
Or our state rules.
Yep. And they're pretty good here. I have a slide at the end that shows how much they actually spend and what they do to take care of their noxious weeds. So yeah, that mainly what we do is just work with our noxious weed program. We provide applicator testing to those who need it for herbicide application, such as farmers and anyone in the general area. If we didn't do this, the closest place, I'm not even sure what the closest place to do the testing is. Mainly it's St. Paul. So
For which one?
for pesticide applicator testing,
Commercial?
any of them.
Okay, well, the private one, you can get your book at Extension also and just take it online or.
We provide to take it online, you have to go through us, so for the closest spot in the area. We do a cost share herbicide program where we give cost share through grant funds to landowners that have noxious weed issues. Whether they contact me or I send out a legal notice and they're cooperative and want to take care of their weeds. That's a big bonus to the landowners here in Becker County. It's little or no cost and it really helps both natural resources and farmers or just any landowner in general. That's kind of generally what I have. On the next slide, just kind of shows how many miles I put on the truck this last year, driving around, checking out what the issues are in Becker County. And I did find a general area of what needs the most work in Becker County. I also oversee local weed inspectors, and it shows in the townships column that, excuse me, how much they actually do to help out me in my position. I didn't get all the townships information back because I just started and was compiling a bunch of data right these past couple months from Marsha and I.
Oops.
So I still have 15 townships to get back, but they had 37 total weed inspections and voluntarily contacted numerous people and also sent out notice one forms that legally requires them to take care of their noxious weeds. And if it goes past that, it comes back to me and I take care of the rest. Then if you go to the next slide, this just kind of shows how much money is actually spent on noxious weeds in the county. Like I said, I didn't get all the townships data yet, but so far those are the numbers. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, also I'm waiting on numbers, but they have treated over 2,200 acres. I know I get a lot of complaints from their land, but they are doing the best they can with what they have for resources. Becker County does a great job. They spend a lot of money on herbicide and mowing. And Some of the numbers aren't as high as last year, as you can see on the bottom. That's just because I haven't gotten all the data back yet. I'm hoping to get that soon, so.
I think the full board here, you know, thanks you and welcomes you to the county, and we want to continue the working relationship with the landowners. I mean, I think it's important that we don't try to, I mean, I think we want to work, have that friendly face and work with landowners and last resort, we move down that other avenues, but.
Yep.
And I think with that approach, in the past, we've shown that that's a very positive and good approach, so.
Yeah, Marcia's
Encourage you
been a
to
great example there.
Yeah,
so.
continue that, that partner or that working relationship with the public, so.
Mhm.
And I think the weed that I find most concerning is the wild parsnip in the road ditches, you know, because we have a lot of people picking up garbage, volunteer groups, going out there, church groups, and that needs, I think there's a lot of people still uneducated about the dangers of that weed, about the burning of it. So anything we can do to educate our citizens would be great on that.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, let me know. Feel free to call me if there's any landowner that has any issues. I'll take care of that right away. And wild parsnip is definitely one of the major concerns of mine right now,
Yeah.
because how bad of burns it can cause.
It's very difficult to get rid of too.
Yes, it
Not
is.
it's a 2-year plant. It's not a,
And the seed viability up in the soil can last up to 6 years, I think they're
Right.
finding now. So you got to repeatedly treat that area 6 years in a row without missing a plant to
Right.
prevent any more wild parsnip from coming back. So the goal is to get on top of that weed specifically. And then Marcia usually got a signature from the chairperson. I don't know what she did.
just
For what
to
reason, but-
accept the report.
Yep.
So we'll entertain a motion to accept the report as.
So moved.
Motion by John,
I'll second.
second by Erica. Any discussion?
The only thing, when you get all of the results, can you just email that to like
Yeah.
our administrator and you can share it with us?
Of course.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else before the board? Not? We are adjourned.